As any FNaF fan knows, the original 4 FNaF games came out in a little under a year, which was great for YouTubers since they were able to make content about the games in quick succession. And because there is so much stuff coming out, it led to many channels that weren't getting attention before to skyrocket in popularity. But there was still a wait between releases, which begged the question, what content should YouTubers who primarily made FNaF videos make? Some decided to make theory videos, or maybe some fun facts about the animatronics, but some of the videos that did super well were videos playing Five Nights at Freddy's fan games. There were a lot of fan games from this era of the FNaF franchise that are still popular today, mainly Five Nights at Candy's, Five Nights at Treasure Island, and The Return to Freddy's, although that one is not popular for the same reason as the other two. But there are many games from this era that have been forgotten over the years, even though they were very popular at the time. And one of these games is what we're talking about today. Five Golden Nights at Freddy's is a name that you might be familiar with. It is a Five Nights at Freddy's fan game made by a developer that goes by Kuno Leo. This game was pretty popular when it came out. YouTubers like FusionZGamer and Dawko played it, with Fusion's video getting nearly 2 million views. So yeah, it was popular at that time, but it's been 10 years since the first game came out, and I was thinking about it recently, and thought it would be nice to go back and check it out. And then I realized there isn't just one Five Golden Nights at Freddy's game. So then I thought, you know what would be cool? If I made a video talking about Five Golden Nights at Freddy's. So then, I started making the video. And let me tell you guys, this fan game is definitely much bigger than I thought it was going into this video, with 4 games, one of which is hidden from the public. I mean, not very well, but there was an attempt. At a stage of the series where the developer threatened to delete all the games, there's a lot more to talk about than just a FNaF fan game that doesn't have cameras. So let's not waste any more time and start talking about Five Golden Nights at Freddy's. Alright, before we get into this section, I want to shout out the channels FNaF Fan 55, ETH Goes Boom, FusionZGamer, and however you say this name, because all the gameplay footage in this section is taken from their channels. I did play the game, and I recorded it, but the footage ended up looking like this. Dude, what? Five Golden Nights at Freddy's was released on March 23rd, 2015, so 20 days after FNaF 3 came out, and apparently the whole game was made in 10 days. The game's description reads, "The Freddy Fazbear franchise has a new owner. The owner wanted to recreate the good old days when it was only Springtrap and Freddy. He placed a huge map on the wall that detects everything that's going on in the building instead of cameras because they cost too much power or something. This game takes place in Golden Freddy's." Yeah, that's the name of the place. I'm going to cover the game on a night-by-night basis since the gameplay is kind of weird for one of the animatronics. On night 1, nothing happens, so I guess we'll just use this time to talk about the look of the office. It's the only location we'll be seeing throughout the game, so that's important. The office is just a gray room. To our right are the newspapers from FNaF 3, which does mean this game takes place after it. There are also kid drawings on the wall in front of us, and to our left, a poster that says "Stay calm and play FNaF." So I guess FNaF is an actual game series in this universe. How did Kuno predict the plot of Help 1 4 years before it came out? That's crazy. There is something else in our office as well. In front of us is a giant monitor which displays the entire building we are in. This is how we see where the animatronics are in the building. That's right, in this game there are no cameras, a fact Kuno really wanted you to know. I mean, it's mentioned in almost all the patch notes and even on the banner of the game. This mechanic is what sets it apart from other FNaF games at the time. Today, we have plenty of fan games without cameras, but at this time, it was unique for sure. And does work with the overall gameplay. I think it would have been a lot worse if we had to check the cameras, actually. The only criticism I have of this is it gets a little boring just seeing the office for the full game, but luckily, you don't have to see it for very long because the nights in this game are only like 4 minutes, with night 1 being 2.5 minutes. Anyway, nothing really happens on this night. I mean, we get a phone call, but I'll talk about the phone calls later. However, near the end of the night, a white dot will appear on the monitor, which shows the player what an animatronic on the map looks like before night 2, where actual threats are introduced. As the dot gets closer, we hear My Grandfather's Clock from FNaF 2. The night ends before they can get into our office. In case you couldn't already tell, this is the puppet. And this is confirmed later in the game when the puppet becomes an actual threat, for like 3 nights, but still. Overall, night 1 is a fine introduction to the mechanics of the game, although there is one thing I wanted to talk about. I said earlier that there are no threats on this night besides the puppet showing up at 5 AM, but this isn't actually true. There is a character on this night, but it's an Easter egg. Apparently, Bonnie can show up on night 1 if you skip the phone call and put up and down the mask a lot. He will kill you if you don't put on the mask when he walks through the office. You can actually see Bonnie later in the game in a minigame, but we'll talk about that later. He's an interesting addition to the game. I don't really know what else to say. Night 2 is where things get real. Two new animatronics are introduced tonight, those being Springtrap and Phantom Freddy. Although Phantom Freddy is actually supposed to be Golden Freddy, you can monitor the two of them on the map. They can explore the entire building, but will only come in through one side of the office. For Springtrap, that's the left, and Freddy, it's the right. You deal with them both in the same way, which is when they come by your office, you have to put on the Freddy head for FNaF 2 to make sure they don't attack you. Springtrap will run throughout the place very quickly before coming to your office. When he does this, he will either stop and peek out from the wall, or he'll just run through. If he runs through, you don't actually have to put on the mask, which is cool. On later nights though, he will stop in the middle of your office before running out. Freddy, on the other hand, is really slow. He just walks to the building, meaning you have to keep the Freddy head on longer when dealing with him. For night 2, it's fun, but on later nights, this causes a lot of panic when you have other things to deal with in the office. The puppet also makes a return this night. He will randomly show up on the posters on the wall to your right. And when he does this, you have to put on the Freddy head. So every animatronic this night can be dealt with by using the Freddy head. You can just use the Freddy head all night, I guess. As you may have noticed, all these characters and every other character in this game are just reused assets from FNaF 1, 2, and 3. This was pretty par for the course back in 2015, so it's fine. And I actually think they fit in with the art style of the game very well. This could also be because this game was originally not a FNaF fan game. This game was originally going to be a sequel to another game called 3 of Them, and Kuno used FNaF characters as placeholders while coding. But Kuno liked the assets, so they decided to keep them in, and make a FNaF fan game instead. And I have to agree with Kuno here. I think the assets fit the game very well. I'd say the game almost feels like an official game in the series. After completing night 2, we get a mini game. Basically, we leave our office and get attacked by Springtrap. We're okay though, since we're still able to work on night 3. Night 3 introduces a new animatronic to the gameplay loop, that being a Phantom Balloon Boy. He is our first character that has a unique mechanic, that being that we will have to click on him when he appears to make him go away, or else he will jump scare us. Or apparently we punch him. This definitely helps with the gameplay, since it means we can't have the mask on the entire night. From what I can tell, he is pretty forgiving with the amount of time you have to deal with him. When he shows up at the same time as Freddy, it's definitely a bit nerve-wracking, since you know you have to click on BB, but Freddy's taking his sweet time walking through the office, and BB laughs as he gets closer to jump scaring you, which adds to the stress. You should be fine though, you definitely have enough time. I definitely think BB's mechanic is pretty good, but I hope that almost every other character in this game doesn't copy it. Puppet also returns on this night, but for some reason his mechanic has changed. You can't use the mask to deal with him anymore, instead you have to click on him like BB. I'm not sure why this was done, to be honest. He also doesn't make a sound cue when he shows up like BB, so you have to use the monitor to see whether or not he's in your office. This is also his mechanic for the rest of the game, although something that's really weird about him is that he actually doesn't appear on nights 4 or 5, but then comes back for night 6. Why does he do that? The puppet is definitely the strangest character in this game. On night 4, another new character is introduced, Mangle. You also deal with Mangle by clicking on her, much like BB, but there's a bit more to him. You see, when she appears, the monitor will go out. He also won't kill you, just turn off the trackers, making it impossible to know where Springtrap and Freddy are. This definitely makes Mangle different enough from Balloon Boy. When she appears, she also makes the static noise from FNaF 2, which gets really annoying really fast. Overall, Mangle is a fine addition to the gameplay loop. She does appear at the same time as Balloon Boy a lot. I recommend focusing on Balloon Boy first when this happens, since he can actually kill you. Other than Mangle though, there really isn't anything else to talk about regarding night 4. After beating night 4, we get another mini game. What we have to do is go to the right and interact with the cake we find. Bonnie is also here. I'm not really sure where we are. It's like we just walk to the void or something. I don't think this is supposed to be another room because it doesn't show up on the map. I don't know. I think it's kind of weird that only nights 2 and 4 have mini games, but I don't really care that much. On night 5, another new character is introduced, that being Chica. She can appear on your laptop screen for some reason. You have to deal with her by clicking on it. She also makes the sound that the Wither animatronics make when they're in your office in FNaF 2. She only appears like once on night 5, and I don't think she appeared at all in night 6, so she's a pretty pointless character. The game also doesn't tell you how to deal with her, which can get you killed. But I managed to figure it out after dying once. The game definitely should have hinted at how you deal with her though. It's actually weird. I mean, there is one line on night 4 that hints towards her mechanic, but that's not even on the night she shows up. The only other thing I have to say is that on this night, things really do ramp up in difficulty. Not with Springtrap and Freddy. I think they're at the same level of aggressiveness throughout the whole game, but with BB and Mangle. There are some times where you will have to deal with BB and Mangle, and they will reappear right after you handled them. I mean, the game still isn't very hard, but it's something worth noting. When you beat night 5, you actually get the bad ending. So how do you get the good ending? Well, first, shout out to the channel Salvage. They made a video going over how you get all the endings in this game, which was a major help. Basically, on night 5, you have to click the Keep Calm and Play FNaF poster a few times. When you do this, a Golden Freddy plush will spawn on your desk, indicating that you have unlocked the good ending, which means yes, the Keep Calm and Play FNaF poster is important to this game. The good ending shows us a newspaper which says that the pizzeria has straight up disappeared into thin air, and experts say it might be something paranormal. What's crazy crazy is that I'm pretty sure this is canon, since after you get the good ending, you get Night 6, which gives us the real ending, which means canonically, the Golden Freddy's Pizzeria disappeared. We'll talk more about this later. Night 6 is harder than Night 5. This time there's the puppet and a new character, Foxy. The way Foxy works is that during the night, you will hear his song from FNaF 1. When you hear it, you must click on the Foxy plush on the desk a couple times. When you do this, he'll stop. If you don't do this, he'll kill you. I think Foxy might be the worst character in this game, not because of the mechanic itself necessarily, but because it is never explained to you in the game. I'm not even sure how I figured it out. I've seen a lot of people say Night 6 is hard, but in my opinion, it really isn't. It is obviously nerve-wracking when the puppet, Mangle, and BB all appear at the same time, especially since I'm pretty sure the amount of clicks it takes for them to go away is randomized, but for the most part you have plenty of time to deal with them before Springtrap or Freddy show up. Not a lot, but enough to where you will survive. I only died like once on Night 6, and it was because I didn't know how to handle Foxy. When you beat Night 6, you get the real ending, which shows us a crying child in a void. I'm not really sure what this means, but we'll talk about it later. And while we're at it, let's just talk about all the endings in this game. There are 6 endings. The worst ending is gone any time that you die, so basically it's just a game over screen. I guess it's technically true, dying is the worst ending for the guard. I already talked about how to get the bad and good ending, and the real ending is gotten from beating Night 6. There are 2 other endings though, the better ending and the best ending. The way you get the better ending is by waiting 2 minutes on the Night 2 minigame. When you do this, Springtrap will stop running around and go dormant on the left side of the pizzeria. Something interesting that's in this minigame is that you can find hints on how to get 2 other endings in the game. There's a message with the head of Freddy that says X2, which is a hint to click on the poster of him in Night 5, and the same thing for Bonnie, which is a hint for the real ending. The guard can now leave the pizzeria, which grants us the better ending. Basically, the guard just says he quits and drives away. The ending is cool, I guess. It's just, a fun extra thing. The best ending can be achieved by clicking twice on Freddy's nose on the title screen. When you do this, the player will be brought to a hidden Night 0. Here, the phone guy will talk about how he bought the Freddy's franchise and how the location we are in is actually Fredbear's itself. The phone call is on a loop and the hours never progress, so the only way to continue is to skip the phone call. When you do this, the phone guy will be quite sad we tried to skip him.
Oh man, you thought you could skip me? You're a dream, son. Whatever you do, you have to press that button on the screen, that little green button over there. You have to press it now because, yeah.
An epilepsy warning, skip to the time on screen if you have epilepsy. When we click on the green light on the laptop, this happens. Eventually we get jump scared by BB and taken to the ending screen, where the phone guy talks to us before we randomly get jump scared by BB once more, which is probably the only time this game actually made me jump. It really came out of nowhere. And those were all the endings. I don't know what to say about them. They're fun, I guess. I don't really have a favorite, but I guess if I had to pick one, it would be the real ending. Now let's talk about the lore, because it's pretty interesting, as I'm sure you figured out by now. So this game is a sequel to FNaF 3, and the phone guy is the new owner of Fazbear Entertainment. And he wants to go back to the old days of Fredbear's when there were only 2 animatronics, which were Golden Freddy and Springtrap. So yeah, in universe, the character Spring Bonnie is actually called Springtrap, which is interesting. So he bought some stuff online from eBay, Craigslist, and he must have bought stuff from the auction at the end of FNaF 3 as well, since he has Springtrap. He also somehow got his hands on the original Golden Freddy animatronic. And we know it's the original one, since phone guy heavily implies it.
They look pretty old, don't they? It's like, they look like they're the originals, yeah. That's so weird.
However, it should be noted he only bought Golden Freddy and Springtrap. He did not buy the puppet, BB, Mango, Foxy, or Chica. The game makes this very, very clear. The building we are in is also Fredbear's itself. I'm pretty sure that the phone guy dies on Night 5.
Chica on screen. It's a touch screen. You can touch on it. Peace out.
And canonically, the building disappears after completing Night 5. And the guard must have disappeared with it, since we know Night 6 actually happens. I mean, it's not called the real ending for no reason. So that's pretty much the basic plot of this game, but there are a lot of questions. Like, what's up with the real ending? But first, let's talk about another mystery. What is the Night 4 minigame about? What does the cake mean? Why do we collect it? I have no idea. Okay, let's talk about the real ending now. Who is this crying child? We never hear anything about kids going missing throughout the game, and why is it just one of them? Well, I'm not sure, but I have 2 theories, technically 3, but I'll talk about the first 2 first. I don't think this is actually a crying child. I don't think it's a child at all. My first theory is that this is the phone guy. I mean, we know that he died, so it's possible that this is his spirit. And my other theory is that the spirit is us. I mean, remember, when the pizzeria disappeared, so did the guard. So maybe he died when that happened, and this represents that, and now he's stuck here forever, I guess? It could also be the spirit that possesses the puppet, since he's built up throughout the entire game, so that would make sense. I also wonder if he's the one who made the pizzeria disappeared, I'm not sure. And yeah, that's pretty much all the lore from Golden Knights 1. There really isn't much to talk about, and it's hard to make sense of it all. As of writing this section, I've not beaten 2 or 3 yet, so I don't know if the story of this game will be explored later on. I'm making this voiceover after I finish both of them, and I can say, yeah, it wasn't. I can forgive the lore being pretty bare bones since the game was made in 10 days and wasn't even supposed to be a FNaF game at first, so I'll let it slide. Also, all of this is just my interpretation of this story. I could definitely be wrong, I probably am. Something else I should mention is the phone guy. I've seen a lot of people say the phone guy in this game is difficult to understand, but I'm not sure why. To me, it's very easy to understand what he's saying. I do think the phone calls could have been a little louder, sure, but it's not that bad. Some people also don't like the performance of phone guy, but I like it. I really like how he sounds high the entire time. I think it's pretty funny. Actually, here are some of my favorite phone guy moments.
The kids seem to like him sometimes when they're not in the way. Anyway, welcome to the first day on your job here at Golden Freddys. Yeah, it's pretty nice. Earlier today, people from the office said that they heard giggles. I was all like, giggles? What? Don't they thought a child gone missing or something? And I was like, nah man, that's not good. But we didn't find a child, so I think it's all good now.
Overall, yeah, I have no problem with the phone guy in this game, but a lot of people do, so I figured I'd mention it. And I'm pretty sure that was all 5 Golden Knights at Freddy's has to offer. Overall, I think the game is actually pretty good. I think the gameplay loop is fun, even if most of the characters' mechanics boil down to clicking on them. And while it can get boring just looking at the office the entire game, it's not that big of a deal. The huge monitor in the center of the screen definitely is unique and makes up for there being no cameras. And also, looking at location of the mini games, I don't think the cameras would have been very interesting to look at. What you guys gotta realize is how unique this game was for having no cameras. If it did, I don't think it would have been nearly as popular. I also like the art style. It is by far one of the best fan games that has mainly reused assets from FNaF 1, 2, and 3. And the Stay Calm and Play FNaF poster, of course. They fit in with the art style very well. It's actually surprising to me that a game this good was only made in 10 days. It's also not very long either, only like 35 minutes if you do everything. I don't know, I think this game feels like an original FNaF game in a way. I mean, sure, I have my issues with the way some of the animatronics mechanics were introduced, and I think the puppet is pretty weird with how he shows up nights 1, 2, and 3 and then fucks off for nights 4 and 5, and is back for 6, and I wish there was a custom night as well, and it would even work for the idea that the guard is trapped there since, you know, the building disappeared. Oh yeah, speaking of the story and lore is the part of this game that I have issues with. It's just not fleshed out at all, and for some people that's not a problem, which is fair, but personally I've always preferred games with an overarching narrative. I mean, the game is still good overall, but it is disappointing to me. Overall, I think the game is a fun way to spend half an hour, and I recommend you check it out. I'll give it like a solid 7 out of 10. When the game came out, it was pretty well received, and was decently popular on YouTube, so the only logical thing to do was to make a sequel, and that's exactly what Kuno did. 5 Golden Knights at Freddy's 2 released April 7th, 2015, very soon after the first game. The Game Jolt page calls this game the hardest FNaF game, but is this true? Well, let's find out. But before we do that, I just want to quickly ask you guys to subscribe. I'm trying to hit 9,500 subscribers before the end of the year, and subscribing would help me out a lot. And if you've made it this far, you're either enjoying the video or hate watching. Either way, you should sub. With that said, let's get back into this retrospective, because things only get crazier from here. 5 Golden Knights at Freddy's 2 takes place in an all-new Golden Freddy's pizzeria, as we learned from the newspaper at the start of the game. Which, by the way, after you read this newspaper, the game will crash. It does this every time, at least for me. To get around this, you just have to click load game instead of new game. When we load into night 1, we might at first think our office layout is similar to that of the first game. And it is, but it's also different. There's new pictures on the wall of Fredbear, Springtrap, and the puppet. I'm guessing these come from the first game's location, because I'm fairly confident this game takes place after the first one, but I'll talk more about that later. To our right is a calendar showing us the game takes place in June, which is interesting considering that there are Christmas lights right above it. I've heard of Christmas in July, but not Christmas in June. What might be more noticeable than all of this is the center of the screen. There is a monitor like the first game, but it's shrouded in darkness. That's because of a new mechanic introduced in this game, that being power. You have to hold down the A key to use a flashlight, which are actually more like spotlights, but whatever. You have 100% power, and when you hold it down it decreases, but when the light is off the power is gained back. So you can't actually run out of power, so it's no big deal. I don't like this mechanic. I think it's pretty much pointless. There's already a lot of stuff you'll have to deal with later in the game that having to juggle power and being able to actually see where everyone is just a bit too much. With our monitor lit up, we see that this location is not only bigger than the previous game, but there are many more animatronics as well. For this game, I'll talk about the phone calls each night, since this game is definitely more story driven than the previous one. On this night, he just tells us how to survive, and that's it. He says that if any of the animatronics come through our office, we must put on the Bonnie mask, as opposed to the usual Freddy mask. I think the idea of the Bonnie mask is cool, definitely makes the game stand out, and Bonnie is oddly important to this game's story, so it works out well from a story perspective. There are also vents, which you may have already noticed. If any animatronics come through the vents, we have to seal them by pressing on the squares. A red square means the vent is closed, and green means it's open. You can only have one vent closed at a time. If they get through, they will kill you regardless of if you have the mask on or not. And the phone guy tells us this himself.
Some of the animatronics tend to go inside the vents and try to murder you from behind. And that's not a good thing. Not at all.
Yeah, that isn't a very good thing. It's rare to have a phone guy that is so open with the fact that we're in danger, so I thought I'd mention it. The line is also pretty funny. The phone guy also says that if anything unusual pops up, to punch it in the face again, which means that once again we'll have to punch someone in this game. I find the use of the word again to be interesting, but we'll talk more about that later. On this night, 4 animatronics are active. Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, Toy Chica, and JJ. Toy Freddy is a basic wander type of character. He will enter your office, coming in through the left at first, and eventually he'll come back through the right. Just put on your Bonnie mask to deal with him. However, I'd like to note here that there is no grace period between the animatronics entering your office and you having to put down the mask. Unlike the first game where you had a couple seconds of leeway, here you have less than a second, or at least close to that. And that goes for every masked character. So you have to monitor the character's movements very, very carefully, which is quite difficult when you have to manage a power mechanic as well, but again, I'll talk more about that later. I think there being no leeway kind of sucks, especially later in the game where there are multiple threats coming in your office at once. It makes it hard to deal with other things. For Toy Chica, she'll simply go through the vents to your left. Close the vent to deal with her. Also, you can close the vent when you have the Bonnie mask on, which is appreciated. Toy Bonnie is a combination of both Toy Freddy and Toy Chica. He will go through your right vent, and obviously you have to seal it when that happens. Now, I know what you might be thinking. With 2 characters that go through the vents, what happens if they both go through it at the same time? Well, if that happens, you're basically fucked. It only happens to me a couple times though, so it's not that big of a deal, all things considered. Sometimes you will have to quickly open and close the vents when they go right after another though. After going through the vent, Toy Bonnie will walk through your office, coming in from the right. When he does this, you have to put on the Bonnie mask, which is funny because when he comes through the vents, he'll recognize that the Bonnie mask is fake. But when he's coming through the office, I guess he just doesn't. The final character is JJ. She's basically just BB from the last game. When she shows up, you have to click on her until she goes away. Unlike BB, when she's there, you can't put down the mask. She won't actually kill you though. She's the only character like this in the game, so there's definitely a lot less spam clicking in this installment. She actually doesn't show up that much, which is interesting. Also, if she appears when you have the mask on, she can't force it off, so you could probably beat this game without ever taking the mask off, which is cool. Although I wouldn't recommend that because it's a lot easier to see what you have to click on with the mask off. Before we move on to the second night, I want to talk about the look of the animatronics here. As you may have been able to tell, some of the animatronics here aren't just PNG. Instead, they're old SFM models by I6NIS. I don't know how to say that name, so I just spelled it out. And honestly, I don't like them very much for this game. I don't think they fit the game very well. Most of the animatronics also have their jump scares ripped from the game, so it causes a sense of dissonance between the jump scare and the rest of the game. And some animatronics do have their assets from the official games, so that's just another level of dissonance. And I know why this was done, since in the games, Toy Freddy and Bonnie don't have sprites of them walking through the office, and Kuno had to make some for the game. But I just don't like it, sorry. Once we beat night 1, we actually go into a minigame. We play as Toy Bonnie with a ghost child to our right. We are told to give the cake to the child. To do this, you have to grab it with your mouse and walk over to the kid to give it to him. Although you could just not, and the minigame will end either way. But if you do this, you'll get the bad ending, so make sure to give the kid the cake. On night 2, Phone Guy basically tells us nothing. He just says that the animatronics are more active as the week goes on. What the Phone Guy doesn't tell us is the new threat introduced on this night, that being FNaF 1 Freddy. He will walk into your office and cause a blackout. In case you don't know what a blackout is, it's basically what the withered animatronics do to you in FNaF 2. In that game though, it's more annoying since they'll pull down the monitor and you won't be able to do anything except keep your mask on. In this game though, it actually makes Freddy one of the easiest animatronics since you don't have to wait nearly as long for him to leave, and you can do other things while he's in the office. Also, he is the only character to have a grace period when putting on the mask. It only lasts a couple seconds, but it's nice. With that said, there really isn't anything else to talk about for Night 2. Night 2's minigame is very interesting. Here you play as a child, and you must run from the purple guy, which makes this William's first official appearance as purple guy in the series, although I'm not sure if this actually is William, but I'll talk about that later. You have to run, and you will find 4 dead kids at the end of the hall. William catches up with you, making you the 5th. However, if you click on this poster, you will instead see a woman, most likely the kid's mom, and you run into her arms. Instead of just getting killed, your mom probably does too. Note that the poster says, "I miss you." This will be relevant later. I'm not exactly sure how anyone figured out how to do this, since there's no indication in the game though. On Night 3, the phone guy tells us that the door to Foxy is malfunctioning, and that's it. As you may have been able to figure out from that piece of information, this night introduces Foxy as a threat. He is simple. Randomly, the door holding him will open. When this happens, there will be a sound effect. You have like 5 seconds to close it, which you can do while in the mask. If you don't, he'll run in and kill you. The mask does not work on him, of course. I think Foxy's pretty good. He isn't really that much of a threat, but if you get distracted, he could sneak up on you and kill you. The only problem is sometimes right after you close the door, it'll open again, which could lead to some stressful moments if an animatronic is about to enter your office. But overall, he's perfectly fine. Nothing really to say. On the Night 3 minigame, we play as a security guard, and we're told to put on the Freddy mask, which means that this obviously isn't the player since we wear a Bonnie mask. Once we put on the mask, we switch to the perspective of Foxy and run down the hall to find Shadow Freddy. I guess this is how Foxy sees the security guards. And if that's true, that means canonically Foxy just attacks who he thinks is a version of Freddy and not the guard, which is actually really funny. Now, if you want to get the good ending, you actually are supposed to not put on the mask, and you run down the hall to get attacked by Foxy. It's kind of weird since in the other mini-games, you don't have to do the opposite of what the minigame tells you to do to unlock the good ending, so it's really weird, I think. Night 4's phone call starts off with the phone guy telling us something we may have noticed. There's an animatronic locked in a room. He says he will fix that eventually, and he'll do something special with the animatronic in there. Whatever that means. He also says that one of the animatronics is moving around like crazy, and we might know who it is, which is interesting. He is of course talking about Springtrap, who is one of the 2 animatronics introduced on this night, along with Fredbear. Both of their assets are taken from the first game, except Fredbear has a new jump scare. Springtrap is almost a reverse Toy Bonnie, who will run in your office through the right side of the office. Unlike the first game where he runs so fast he can run through your office without you having to put on the mask, you have to put on the mask or he'll kill you. After running through your office, he will enter the left event, and obviously you have to seal it when that happens. I'd say that Springtrap is probably the animatronic that killed me the most. Even though he has a simple cycle, he is very fast, so if you get distracted, he could definitely catch you off guard, especially when he runs through the office. Sometimes we'll get in the vent at the same time as Toy Bonnie, and if that happens, you're dead. Sorry. Fredbear, much like the first game, is Springtrap's opposite. He is very slow and will come in through the right side of the office. Put on the mask, and that's it. I will say that his slowness can be nerve-wracking sometimes, but at this point in the game, multiple animatronics will be coming in at the same time anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Night 4's minigame has us play as a child. We have to collect 10 presents while dodging spikes. It's pretty easy. On Night 5, the phone guy tells us he plans to look at the animatronics he talked about last night, and he says we can come back for a 6th night. Rather than that, Night 5 is just a harder Night 4. Much harder, actually. I'll give you guys a little tip. Make sure not to skip the phone call. If you skip it, Springtrap will immediately become active and he'll get in the vent at the same time as Toy Bonnie and you'll be dead. Rather than that, good luck. I definitely had some trouble on this night, but it wasn't too bad. Night 5's minigame has us play as some gray person. We enter a room with a Bonnie animatronic. We are then asked, what will we do? If we leave the room, we get the bad ending. If we have not completed the requirements for the good ending, we will be forced to leave the room. But if we have met the requirements, we can go up to Bonnie and touch him, unlocking Night 6. Now, I haven't played Night 6, I didn't get all the requirements for it, and I didn't want to replay the whole game, so shout out to the YouTuber Jacob, since I took his footage. I can't speak to Night 6 difficulty since I did not play it. For what I can tell, it's a harder Night 5. The only difference is that the room that's been closed for the whole game is open and no one is in it. When you beat Night 6, you get the good ending, and that's it. There are 2 more endings to talk about. Well, technically 3, I guess, since you still get the worst ending from dying, but that's more of a game over screen. Both Both endings require unlocking Night 0. To get Night 0, you must get all the minigames wrong, so you don't unlock any of the plushies. Oh yeah, when you get the minigames right, you get plushies on your desk. Not really worth mentioning, but I guess I'll bring it up now. After completing Night 5, walk up to Bonnie, and Night 0 will be unlocked. The only animatronic on Night 0 is Bonnie. Eventually, the doors will open. If you don't close the door, epilepsy warning again. Skip to the timestamp on screen. Bonnie will come to your office, and you'll get another dance party like the first game, getting you the best ending. However, if you close the door on Bonnie, the shadowy figure of a woman will appear before you. She says something, but I can't make it out. I can only make out, "I want you back." Eventually, she will get up to the screen and say, "I miss you," just like the poster of the mother earlier in the game. I know this image looks scary, but it's less scary when this music starts playing over it. You can actually unlock this ending screen at any time of the game. Randomly, the shadow will go through the office. If you click on it, you'll get the "I miss you" screen. I actually don't like this, because since you have to click on the shadow, and it walks right in front of your monitor, there can be times where like you're clicking on Foxy's door or something and the shadow will happen to pass by. And if it happens, it's game over, since the only way to get out of the screen is to close the game. So basically you lose to basically no fault of your own, which is just great. And that was 5 Golden Nights at Freddy's 2. Before we go over my final thoughts, let's talk about the story of this game. I think the story is better than the first. It seems confusing at first, but when you really think about it, it makes sense for the most part. I'm pretty sure this game takes place after the first one, since this is said to be the new Golden Freddy's location, and Springtrap and Fredbear are here. Not sure how though, if they disappeared at the end of the first game. So I'm pretty sure that our protagonist here is the same as the first game, due to Phone Guy mentioning us probably already knowing Springtrap, and saying we will still have to punch things like we did before. I mean, it's possible that these references mean nothing and are just meta, but I don't care. It's in the game, so unless stated otherwise, I'm just going to pretend this is the case. This begs the question, what happened after the events of the first game? Since if you guys remember, the pizzeria disappeared into thin air. Well, I don't know. At first I thought this game takes place in some sort of like purgatory, and the Phone Guy and player are forced back into their previous roles. But then I remembered the newspaper at the start, and it's not really implied anywhere in the game itself, so I don't know. I guess in the good ending, we probably move on or something if this is the case. If not, then we get fired. I don't know. The good ending is kind of weird. That's all there really is to say about the main plot. So let's talk about those minigames. What's up with those? Why is the purple guy here? And why is there a guard with a Freddy mask? Well, I'm almost certain that these minigames are flashbacks. There's the purple guy chasing down the kids to kill them, while he should be in Springtrap. The Freddy mask, which we know from the first game, Phone Guy bought on eBay, meaning that it was used at Freddy's or Fredbear's or whatever. In the Night 2 minigame, where there are 4 dead kids before we get killed and become the 5th. If you know anything about the story of FNaF, you should know that there are 5 dead kids that possess the animatronics, called the Missing Children Incident, or MCI. I think this minigame shows the MCI, and yeah, I think these minigames are showing that this place we're at is where the kids were killed. One before the MCI, as shown in the Toy Bonnie minigame, most likely being the puppet, and then we see how they possess the animatronics. Foxy most likely killing this night guard. And then the kids catching presents, I don't really know what's going on. And Night 5 is the only one where it could take place in the present. As we know, the Phone Guy was going to check out the room with Bonnie in it after Night 5. And then the Night 5 minigame shows someone going into that Bonnie room. But I don't know, the others are pretty clearly flashbacks, but at the same time it does seem like the obvious implication that this is the Phone Guy, so I just don't know. Anyway, I think these minigames are flashbacks, and showing us the Golden Freddy's location of this game actually takes place at the first Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Notice the decorations around the building in the minigame? They are the same ones as the present day. This is clearly the same building, and since we seem to see the MCI, it likely takes place in the 80s. And finally, let's talk about the I Miss You girl, who I'm going to call the Shadow. At first, I thought the Shadow was much more important to the story of this game. I even wrote a whole section about her, but it turns out this character probably doesn't have any relevance, at least to this game. I say this because Kuno only describes the Shadow as an Easter egg for another game series and nothing more. Which is strange though, because the poster in the Night 2 minigame that you have to click on has the words I miss you, and it seems to show a crying girl. So you think the Shadow would be a missing kid or something, but I guess not. However, this might have changed later, and I'll talk about why in the Golden Knights 3 section. And of course, this is just my interpretation of the story. I could be, and probably am, wrong about it. I'm sure most of the story did not have as much thought put into it as I'm putting into it, but I think it's fun to come up with the story, so yeah. Overall, the story is definitely much stronger than Golden Knights 1. There's much more to talk about, and you can actually kind of figure out what's going on. I like it. I like this game overall, too. I think this game pretty much improved on the first in every way. Better gameplay, better story. The only thing I really didn't like is the SFM models, but I don't really care about that, to be honest. Overall, this game is pretty fun, definitely better than the first. Although personally, I do actually enjoy the first game better. I know it's worse, but honestly, I had more fun with it. I have more nostalgia for it, too, since I used to watch Let's Play players played as a kid, but that doesn't mean I didn't like this game. I'll give this game an 8 out of 10. I think that's pretty good. However, is it the hardest FNaF game like the description says? No, not at all. I mean, it's harder than the first game, but that game is like really easy. I had a lot of trouble on night 5, but every night before that I only died once or twice, or not at all. So yeah, I wouldn't be putting this in any top 10 hardest FNaF fan games list. I don't know if it was hard for the time, but it definitely isn't now. I can't really tell how well received Golden Knights 2 was, but I do know it was definitely less popular than the first. After the release of Golden Knights 2, Kuno said they were moving on from FNaF forever and released a game called Her Nightmares, which is apparently about the I Miss You girl. I strongly considered playing it for this video, but I decided against it. I don't know if my computer can handle it, and there's a remake and it's like 7 years worth of stuff to talk about. Plus Golden Knights 3 has the I Miss You girl in it, so it probably isn't even about her anymore. However, if this video does well and I get an actual PC that's high quality, I would definitely consider checking this game out. So let me know if you guys would be interested in that in the comments. Anyway, Kuno said they were leaving FNaF forever, and then a little while later made this post. Goodbye FGNAF 2. I'm removing my FNaF games this weekend. I'm sick of them, and I'm not a FNaF fan. Give me one good reason not to, and I might consider not removing them. I'm not exactly sure what led to this. Kuno got reasons not to remove them. My favorite reply was someone asking for a poll, and Kuno straight up said no. Kuno really wanted these games gone. Luckily, Kuno gave everyone a chance. If you played the, at that time, recent update of Her Nightmares and got the good ending, the games would stay up. And obviously, this happened. Kuno, this wasn't just a stunt to get people to play your new game, was it? I mean, that's definitely the vibe I'm getting, but I don't know for sure. And yeah, the game stayed up. Now, I would go on to Golden Knights 3, but we actually have to backtrack a little. You see, between Golden Knights 2 and the threat of all the Golden Knight games being taken down, Kuno actually released another game. A game you can't find on GameJolt anymore. Well, you can, but it's unlisted. That game is one Golden Knight at Freddys. One Golden Knight at Freddys was released on May 19th, 2015. This game seems to have gone under the radar for the most part. The most popular video is Dawko's, and it has 16k views. Now, if I could get that many views on this video, I would be happy, but it's definitely a lot less than the most popular video for Golden Knights 1, which is Fusion's with almost 2 million. Hell, like I said earlier, the game isn't even public on GameJolt anymore for some reason. My guess as for why this is because it's not canon. At least that's what I've heard. The only way to access it is to go to the 5 Golden Knights at Freddy's wiki, since the page for one Golden Knight at Freddy's still has the link to the GameJolt page. Also, the wiki is really dead. Golden Knights 3 isn't even on there. The only thing to note from the GameJolt page is that there was a phase where Kuno was sick of FNaF, and apparently the Golden Knight games were taken down before the weird ultimatum thing with Her Nightmares, so there is at least some truth to that, even if I still think it was probably a publicity stunt. Anyway, I'm excited to talk about this game since there isn't much information out there. The first thing I want to mention about this game is the title screen. It's sort of weird. It says you have to enter a coin, and at first I thought this was just some weird way to say press start, but when you press space or the enter key to start the game, the title screen just resets. The way you get the coin is by pressing the C key. You only get one. You'd think there would be something else tied to this, but there isn't, so it's just kind of strange, at least to me. One Golden Knight at Freddy's starts with this dialogue.
Hey, you remember our bet, right? Good. I want you to go inside the old warehouse and bring me one of those old cupcake plushies. Do that and just get out of there. Is right. Well, good luck. See you tomorrow at school.
So we play as a child, I'm assuming, since we have school the next day, and this guy wants us to get a cupcake plushie. We have to go to an old warehouse to find it. We load into the game outside of the warehouse. The first thing we might notice are these two icons at the top of the screen. An exposure meter, which I'll talk about later, and a map. Clicking on the map shows us the layout of the building, with a red X indicating where we are. This place is pretty small, only 6 rooms. To our right outside is a key, which we'll need for later. Unlike the previous two entries, one Golden Knight at Freddy's is a click and point free roam game, and where you can go is indicated by the area turning white when your cursor goes over it. Entering the factory, you can go forward and go to a hallway, which is where you'll encounter the only antagonist in this game, Draw Kill Bonnie. In case you don't know, the Draw Kills are fan-made animatronics. They're probably best known for being part of Golden Lane Studios' FNaF series, which I've always wanted to cover. Let me know if you guys will be interested in seeing that. There's this great video by MR Springs that that goes over the history of this set of animatronics. Here's where the exposure meter comes into play. Bonnie won't just kill you right when he sees you. Instead, your exposure will deplete very quickly if he sees you. And if it goes all the way down, he'll kill you, obviously. As soon as you enter a different room or out of his line of sight, the exposure meter will stop depleting and you'll slowly get the exposure back over time. And this is the gameplay loop of this game. Just go around and try to find the cupcake, which is very easy. Remember that key from earlier? Yeah, just grab that and it will unlock the door to the left in the hallway. Once that's unlocked, you'll be in security office, I'm assuming. Here is the cupcake, which is just the cupcake from FNaF 1. There will also be a monitor much like Golden Knights 1 and 2, which tracks Bonnie's movement, so you can use this to plan your escape. After getting the cupcake, just go back the way you came and you'll get the bad ending. What? Wait, why do you get the bad ending for doing what you were told to do and surviving? Anyway, there are two more endings to this game. The best and good ending. The way you get the best ending is simple. Don't pick up the key and go to the room closest to your right in the hallway. Here is a locker. Enter it and wait for a bit. Then Bonnie will show up in front of you and a song I can't play because it's copyrighted will play, and you'll get the best ending. I don't know how this counts as the best ending, you know, there's no dance party and also you probably die. To get the good ending, which I couldn't get for reasons I'll talk about later, so I'm just using Dawko's footage, you have to go to the bathroom, which is the farthest door to your right in the hallway. You can't enter it if Bonnie is in front of you, so if he is, wait for him to leave. Turn on the light, unless you see Bonnie in the mirror and you'll have to turn it off and wait for him to go. Then you can kind of just spam click on the faucet until a key falls out. Now, for me, when I did this for some reason, the key wouldn't come out. It would drop like a water droplet or something. I tried to get this for like 10 minutes and then I gave up because I really don't care that much. After you get the key, go back to the hallway and click on the wooden pallets above you. Then you'll be able to enter an attic. When you enter it, the room will be empty, but if you open and close the map, you'll see a golden cupcake. Grab it and grab the other cupcake if you haven't already and leave. With that, you'll unlock the good ending. I'm not sure how anybody figured this out. There's nothing in the game that indicates this. I guess you just have to go and click around and hope you find something. And that was all one Golden Knight at Freddy's has to offer. Yeah, it's a very short game. I mean, you can beat it in less than 2 minutes. I want everyone to go and download this game and see how quickly you can get the good ending. Before we talk about my final thoughts, I want to talk a little bit about the atmosphere of this game, which is my favorite part of it. The atmosphere here is far better than the first two games, at least to me. It's dark and gritty and kind of feels like a nightmare, or like a twisted memory, but in like a childlike way, if that makes sense. And I think the voice lines of Bonnie you can hear when he spots you definitely help with that. The ambience noise too, it just gives off the vibes that you aren't supposed to be here. The PNGs of Bonnie definitely help with this nightmare feeling as well, since like he fits in, but at the same time like he doesn't. Overall though, I do think this game is the worst so far. I mean, it's fine for what it is, and I always like click and point free roam, but there is so little content. The gameplay is very easy, and Bonnie never feels like a threat. And despite this being maybe the most unnerving game for me, I never felt scared while playing it. Even though this game definitely feels like it's trying to be much more of a horror game. More so than the first two anyway. I do appreciate the evolution in the gameplay with the free roam aspects though. And it's really hard to say this game is bad because it's well made and everything, it's just short. I'll give it like a 6.5 out of 10. As for the story, I've seen people say this game isn't canon, but I don't see why. I mean, this could just happen anytime before the first game or after the second game. Nothing really happens, so I don't see why not. I'll assume it's not canon because that's what I've heard. After the release of one Golden Knight at Freddy's, the series just kinda ended. There was nothing really going on. Kuno did mention the idea of a VR version of Golden Knights 1, but that never went anywhere. And Kuno moved on, working on other projects. In 2020, Kuno did make a minor update for Golden Knights 2, making it so both the vent buttons and Foxy's door just have to be clicked once instead of double clicked. And then, on October 29th, 2021, the Misfits Burger Joint was released. Misfits Burger Joint is a remake of Golden Knight 1. It was a minigame in Kuno's other game, and then released as a standalone thing later. Of course, after I learned about this, I knew I had to include it in the video. I mean, it's not a FNaF Fan Game, but it's an official remake of a game in the series. I can't just not talk about it, so I'm going to now. Misfits only has 3 threats: the psycho bunny, the dumb bear, and the annoying fox. The bear and the bunny are just Springtrap and Fredbear. What a surprise, I know. The only things to note is that the bunny won't run past the office even if you have the mask on, and the bear is faster than Fredbear was in the original game. The annoying fox will come in from the ceiling. He is pretty much like everyone else from Golden Knights 1. However, you don't click on him to make him go away. Instead, you have to push this red button 10 times. He will also disable your monitor and will make the night go slower. However, from what I can tell, he won't kill you if you you don't deal with him fast enough, so you could probably just keep the mask on the entire game. I don't know though. I beat this game fair and square. I would say the basic strategy is to watch the characters on the feed, and if the fox comes down, deal with him unless you're not sure if the bear and bunny are close. If you aren't sure, just put on your mask until they go through, and you'll have enough time to deal with the fox. Something worth noting is the art style. I like it. I think it looks good. It's simplistic and it fits the vibe of the game well. This definitely isn't a horror game. This game is harder than Golden Knights 1, just because it can be hard to predict where the bear and bunny are when the fox is in. But it's only one night, so whatever. When you beat the night, you get a screen saying you win and that's it. Overall, the game is good. I mean, it's just a mini game anyway. It's kind of unfair to compare it to a full-length Golden Knight game. I'd say it works fine as a remake, although I definitely prefer the original game here. There's just more content and has a better gameplay loop, I think. You also don't have to spam your mouse 10 times in the original, which is better in my opinion. I guess I'll give this game like a 7 out of 10. Misfits shows us that Kuno still had interest in the Golden Knight series. Well, maybe it shows us this, I don't know, I just want to talk about it. It may not play into the greater story here, but if it did, then it makes sense why sometime shortly after Misfits was made as a standalone, a Game Jolt page for 5 Golden Knights at Freddy's 3 went up. Kuno said Kuno didn't just want to make another Golden Knights game, and Kuno wanted this game to be more like Sister Location. After that, there were updates on the progress of the game until 5 Golden Knights at Freddy's 3 Storage released on April 16th, 2022. 7 years after the last game. Alright, first things first, I just want to apologize for the gameplay footage. I had to record it on my phone since my computer was on its last legs when I downloaded this game, so I just could not record the gameplay. And I didn't really want to take anyone else's gameplay again, so this is the next best thing. 5 Golden Knights at Freddy's 3 takes a new approach on the series, having it be a 2D side-scroller. Although there is of course office gameplay similar to the first 2 games, and aspects of 1 Golden Knights at Freddy's point-and-click free roam as well. The game begins with our unnamed protagonist entering the facility the game takes place at. He's here for a very simple reason. As the game's description says, you arrive at a strange abandoned facility. You've heard your sister is here, and you want to find her. It's nice to have an actual motivation for our protagonist. The first thing he says when he arrives at the facility is that he should be careful because there might be some shady homeless people here. Sure, I guess that could be true. He also says that this place makes his head hurt. Keep this in mind. We can explore the location by walking around using WASD and clicking on doors that turn white when our cursor goes over them. The first door you'll be likely to enter is the storage room right at the entrance of the building. Here you can find a Freddy mask, which you do need to progress further in the game, so be sure to pick it up. We exit the room and walk down the hall. We will see that there is a room that is boarded up, and that will need something like a crowbar to enter. And we find a door that is locked, and we'll have to find a key to access it. Walking further down the hallway, Freddy Fazbear walks by, and our protagonist says it does not look like the silhouette of a homeless person. Yeah, it sure doesn't. We go to the end of the hall and enter a new area. But based on the map, it's really just the same hallway, but like the other side of it. Foxy runs by and we have to hide in a box. This is the only time this mechanic comes up. Going to the bathroom, our protagonist states that he doesn't need to go, which is good because if he did, there wouldn't be any water to wash his hands with. We also find a locked stall. We'd need something like a crowbar to open it, if only we could find one in the game. The key we need is also in this room, on top of a mirror. There's also another room right next to the bathroom. I'm not sure what this is. It looks like a room out of an asylum, so I guess this is the real Five Nights in an Asylum. In this room, there is a Bonnie mask, which we need to progress, so make sure to pick it up. Wait, a Freddy mask and a Bonnie mask? What is this, some kind of Golden Knights at Freddy's 1 and 2 reference? On the way to the locked door, there is this big door that is locked. There is not even a handle to open it. We go back to the locked door, and with the key we picked up earlier, we can enter. And we find ourselves in an office, and our first office gameplay segment begins. There are 4 animatronics active during this segment, those being Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. Freddy will come from the left side of the office. To deal with him, you have to put on your Freddy mask, and wait for him to walk to the other side of the office. In side note here, but I think the animatronic models in this game, which were made by these guys, look really good. Definitely fit in better than the models in Golden Knights 2. Bonnie is just like Freddy, however he will instead come from the right. To deal with them, you have to put on the Bonnie mask. Now you might be wondering, how can you tell which one of them is coming? Well, you have to use audio cues. They will make footsteps when they approach, and you'll be able to tell which side they're coming from, so you know which mask to put on. This is probably easier with headphones, but I played without them and it was still very easy to tell which side the footsteps were coming from. I think Freddy and Bonnie are fine. Chica is arguably the most simple character in this segment. Randomly her cupcake will spawn in, and it will make a sound effect when it does this. Just click on it and you're good. Foxy is the final character. You see, in your office, office, there's a door to your left. The door you came in through, obviously. It starts off open and you have to close it. It will randomly open throughout the night, making a sound effect when it does that. Just go and keep it shut. Randomly, Foxy will try to get into your office, and again, he'll make a sound effect when he does this. If the door is closed, he won't get in. Now, you'd think you only have to close the door when Foxy's coming to the office. However, you're actually supposed to just keep it closed all night. I'm not really sure why. I guess it's in case you have to deal with Freddy and Bonnie while Foxy's coming, which makes sense. However, the door can open right after you close it, which can lead to some deaths if you're unlucky. Like, one time I closed the door and had to put on the mask to deal with Freddy or Bonnie. And while I was doing this, not only did Foxy attack, but the door opened in the middle of me having the mask on. And I couldn't do anything, and Foxy killed me. So this section definitely does have some RNG. Although I do think this scenario is rare, and I wouldn't worry about it anyway, since you can sometimes play this section without Foxy ever appearing, which is weird, I think. But I'm not complaining. There's also a plushie of a character from another game. Her name is Heiyama-chan. If it shows up, you'll have to click on it or she'll kill you. Very interesting decision to include this character. The way you beat this section is by restoring the power, which just means waiting for the percentage at the top of the screen to get to 100%. The only reason we do this entire section, by the way, is because the protagonist thinks something might happen. Also, fun fact, if you don't start this section, you can just leave and explore more if you want. I think that's cool. Overall, I like this section. I think everything plays out well. The only problem I have is the RNG with Foxy, but most of the time he might not even show up, so it's not really that big of a deal. This section also acts as a tutorial, showing us the mechanics of the characters before the true night, but I'll get to that later. After completing the office section, we have to go back to the big door that we couldn't open. Going inside, we find out this place is not a garage, which we never thought it was. The room seems to be a medical room or something. It's a mess and it's bloody. There are trash bags too, which are probably holding bodies. We find a rusty crowbar, which the protagonist says we might be able to use once or twice. Somehow he managed to guess the amount of times we have to use it perfectly. If we go back to the boarded room from the start of the game, we can use our crowbar on it, breaking it in the process. When we enter, we find a staircase, and our protagonist saying it must be the place, whatever that means. He says that once he goes down here, there's no coming back, but I'm not really sure why he thinks this or why it's the case. Going down there, we find a familiar sight. The basement led to the location from 5 Golden Nights at Freddy's 1. This time, there is a Fredbear poster on the side of the wall, and the FNaF 3 newspapers on the right. This is where the final Sit and Survive section of the game is. There are 7 animatronics on this night. They're divided by masked characters and other characters I don't have a name for. The masked characters are Freddy, Bonnie, Withered Spring Bonnie, and Withered Fredbear. They are the characters that will constantly move around. The mechanics of these characters were foreshadowed in the previous office segment. For Freddy and Bonnie, you have to put on the mask of their corresponding characters. This time you don't have to rely on sound cues because you can just see their movements on the map. As for Withered Spring Bonnie and Withered Fredbear, they are pretty similar to how they work in Golden Nights 1 and 2. Spring Bonnie will run very fast throughout the building. When he runs past your office, put on the Bonnie mask. As for Fredbear, he'll move the slowest out of all the characters. When he comes through your office, put on the Freddy mask. Also, he finally has an original model and isn't just Phantom Freddy, and it looks really good. While I would have preferred a more accurate Fredbear design to the games, that being a recolor of FNaF 1 Freddy, I still like the Withered Freddy look. Although I do think it's funny that Fredbear and Spring Bonnie only get fooled by the mask of their corresponding character, even though in Golden Nights 1 and 2, they were fooled by both masks. You'd think this goes for FNaF 1 Freddy too, since he is fooled by the Bonnie mask in Golden Nights 2, but it actually doesn't, and I'll explain why later. Now, all of these masked characters have the same problem as Golden Nights 2, where there's really no grace period in them entering the office and you putting on the mask. Unlike Golden Nights at Freddy's 2 though, you aren't dealing with as much stuff, so it really isn't a problem. The other characters are Chica, Foxy, and Endoa 1. For Chica, it's exactly the same as the previous office segment. When her cupcake spawns in the office, click on it. As for Foxy, he'll be in a room with a locked door, just like Golden Nights 2. When it opens, the button will turn green on the monitor. Click on it to close it. If he escapes, the other animatronics will disappear, and he'll actually take a decent amount of time to get to your office. So if you're almost at the end of the night, him getting out isn't an instant game over. As for Endoa 1, he will randomly show up on the monitor. When he does this, you will be unable to see where any of the characters are. Just click on the computer to make him go away. I don't really have an issue with any of these characters, they all work fine. Now, before we talk about this night overall, I should tell you guys that I'm pretty sure this night is partially scripted, and by that I mean the movements of Freddy, Bonnie, Fredbear, and Spring Bonnie are scripted. I think that's because they don't have an AI in the custom night. It makes sense why they would be scripted. I mean, there are 2 masks you have to put on. Imagine if there was a random chance you could have the Bonnie mask on while dealing with Spring Bonnie, but then Freddy comes in and you're dead at no fault of your own. That would suck, obviously. Because of the possibility of scenarios like this, the masked characters must be scripted. And yeah, I don't have any problem with that. I just thought it was something worth calling out. Overall, this night is good, I think. It's more challenging than Golden Knights 1, but not nearly as hard as Golden Knights 2. So basically it's really easy, but it's fun. Everyone works together well. It acts as a nice final send-off to the Golden Knight series. To win the night, you must wait for the power of the building to run out, and you can see the progress of this on the computer monitor. It's kind of a reversal of the previous segment. When it gets to 0%, a cutscene will play. We'll see this guy in purple, who is our protagonist, but I don't know why he is wearing purple when he wears blue throughout the rest of the game, or why his hair is shorter. The text below says that the building power has run out, but most of the animatronics are still active. We still have a headache and we're getting tired, and then we get the volunteer ending and unlock basement mode, which is basically just a custom night. I'm not sure why we couldn't just go back upstairs, but whatever. I also think that the reason our guy has shorter hair is because it's supposed to represent the idea of him being stuck down here forever, but I'm not sure. There are 2 more endings in this game. The second ending can be achieved by going back to the start of the game after getting the crowbar and clicking on the exit sign. When you do, the protagonist decides to leave the place and let the police handle whatever is going on here. Doing this rewards us with the F this I'm out ending, which I guess is the closest thing this game has to a best ending. The third ending requires you to go to the bathroom after getting the crowbar. You can now open that locked stall. Doing this will not break your crowbar. Going inside, you will instantly notice something glowing from inside the toilet seat. This is a disc. If we hover over the icon for the disc, we have an option to break it. When we do this, our player says that his headache goes away. Wait, so let me get this straight. We have this disc that is hidden, and when we break it, our headache we only got when entering this location goes away. Almost like the disc was giving us the headache. If you know anything about the deeper FNaF lore, you should start to be able to figure out what this disc is, but I'll tell you later. If we go back to the final office section, we will see that the only animatronics active are Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. Almost like the other ones weren't real, almost like they were illusions. This night is really easy because it's just the 2 of them. Once we beat it, we get a cutscene. The office chair is now empty, the desk under it saying the building's power is out, and everything got quiet, meaning Fredbear and Spring Bonnie are no longer active. Which makes sense if you remember in the volunteer ending, it says that most of the animatronics were still active, but not all. Those animatronics must have been the Core 4 and Endo 1, which makes sense if they were illusions caused by the disc. The protagonist gets up with caution and starts looking around the basement. Doing this rewards us with the reunion ending, with a familiar shadow being shown. Let's talk about the basement mode now, which is the only custom night in the series. The only animatronics that you can customize are Foxy, Endo 1, and Chica, which makes sense since, you know, the other 4 are scripted, and their AI only goes up to 3. There's also this thing that says frequency, but to be honest, I'm not exactly sure what this does. It only goes up to 3 as well. The custom night is fine, it's just the normal basement mode, although there is a secret character in custom night. When loading into the custom night, a message will appear on your screen, saying to type her name in the select screen for custom night. But who is this she? Well, if you go to the custom night screen and type in the letters Hayami, you unlock Hayama, which is the same character as the plush that can randomly spawn in your office in the first section. A very interesting decision to include her in custom night, but not nearly as interesting as her mechanic, which is she will randomly appear in your office. When she does this, you have to give her head pats. Yes, this is real. I'm not exactly sure what to say about this, and I'll just let you guys come to your own conclusions. If you beat the custom night with every character at max AI and the girl too, you'll get a message saying good job, and that's it. Before we talk about my final thoughts, let's talk about the lore of this game. There's actually quite a lot. There's of course the main plotline with us trying to find our sister, but there's a deeper plotline underneath the surface that explains just what this place is. But first, we have to ask the question, is this game a prequel or a sequel? Well, I have no idea. There's a lot pointing towards it being a prequel to Golden Knight 1, like Spring Bonnie not having William's corpse and the Fredbear Family Diner posters, and both the Freddy mask and Bonnie mask being the same place, when we know they just aren't in Golden Knights 1 and 2. But there is one detail that makes me unsure about this conclusion, that being the newspapers in Fredbears. These newspapers are the one from FNaF 3, just like in Golden Knights 1, which would indicate it's after, right? And yeah, it would. So I'm not really sure if this game is a prequel or a sequel, and I'll need you guys to let me know what you think in the comments. Anyway, I think this game finally gives us an answer to who the I Miss You girl is. Like I said in the Golden Knights 2 section, she was originally just there as an Easter egg, but the reunion ending just straight up has her here. It's called the reunion ending, and obviously we are here to find our missing sister. So I think the obvious implication here is that this is our sister who went missing at this facility. And that would imply that our protagonist here is the same as in Golden Knights 2, and therefore Golden Knights 1. Speaking of the reunion ending, what's up with it? Why do we only see Fredbear and Spring Bonnie after breaking the disc? And why does our headache go away? Well, I think the disc is very obviously an illusion disc, which is something Kuno confirmed. In case you don't know, illusion discs are technology introduced in the Twisted Ones novel. It works differently there, though, than it seems to work in this game. Here, the disc causes you to straight up hallucinate animatronics out of thin air, and that's not how it works in the book. There, the discs are still on animatronics. They're just causing you to view them differently, which causes the headache. It's very cool to see them in this game since we don't really see them often in fanworks. I wonder if the illusion disc could explain the other animatronics in Golden Knights 1. As you may remember, they just showed up and weren't brought to the location. I don't know, just food for thought. But why is the illusion disc here, and what is this facility? Well, this is explained in text you can get when loading into rooms. I only found 4, but there may be more. They tell us about 2 people named Adam and Charles, who ran experiments here. They're pretty much like William Afton, trying to find immortality through Remnant. I'm not sure if that means one of these guys is Purple Guy here, or if William still exists as his own separate character. Either way, they ran experiments. The room where we get the crowbar probably shows us where they put the bodies of their victims, and obviously, the protagonist's sister is one of these victims, most likely being the girl talked about in the text talking about the final experiment. We don't know much about these experiments except for one. In their research, they noticed that to fully take advantage of the technology, they need to stimulate the existence of a night guard. They trapped volunteers in fake restaurants. This explains the Fredbears hidden in the basement, and why we are called a volunteer in the volunteer ending. This makes me wonder if the game could be after the first one, and the Fredbear series is a recreation of the first game's location. Explain the newspapers, but I'm not sure. Anyway, Adam and Charles did experiments, and that's all we know. As for which ending is canon, I really don't know. All have an equal chance of being canon. And again, this is all just my interpretation of the lore. I could be 100% wrong. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Overall, the lore is definitely the strongest out of any Golden Knight game. I just wish there was more because we don't really know a lot about Adam and Charles and how they tie into the larger story. We also don't know if our protagonist is related to the I Miss You girl. I mean, I feel like that's the obvious implication, but I could be absolutely wrong. I know Kuno is talking about a Golden Knight 1 remake, so maybe the lore will be retold, tying more into Golden Knights 3. Overall, I like this game. It's fun, and I like how it combines aspects of the other games up to this point. It feels like a neat conclusion gameplay-wise, although story-wise I find it unsatisfying, if not interesting. My only real complaint about the game is that it's too short, and if that's my biggest complaint, you definitely made a good game. I guess it's also pretty easy, but so is every game in the series. I just wish there was another level, maybe with the toys or Draw Kill Bonnie. I think it's cool that there's a custom night, even if it's pretty bare bones. I like all of the endings, I just wish there was another best ending one, because they were kind of a staple of the series. Although I guess it might not fit this game's bleaker tone, even though that anime girl is in this game and she doesn't really fit the tone either. Overall, I'll give this game like an 8 out of 10. Unfortunately, Golden Knights 3 did not get anywhere close to the same level of attention as Golden Knights 1, 2, or even one Golden Knight at Freddy's. The most popular video I could find on the game only has 15k views, and none of the big Let's Players played it, which sucks because I think this game could have been really popular. It really did feel like a classic FNaF Fan Game from 2015. Kuno is still making games today, the most recent project being something called the Kunoverse, an official hub for all the games in the Kunoverse, which is the universe where Kuno's games take place in. I'm guessing not Golden Knight at Freddy's because of copyright stuff. As of October 5th, 2025, Kuno asked if anyone would make assets for a Golden Knight remake if Kuno did the programming. So could there be a Golden Knight 1 remake in the future? Only time will tell. Overall, this video has been a massive nostalgia trip for me. I never knew this game I used to watch FusionZGamer play that scared me so bad I had to hide under the covers of my bed at my grandma's house. Yeah, I know, I was only 7 years old, okay? Would actually expand into 4 games, and a 5th game that's not even really related, but I still want to talk about anyway. I also did not expect the mechanic of having to pat some girl's head eventually being in the series, but it is. Overall, the story of the 5 Golden Knights at Freddy series shows us something about the human experience. It shows us an unfortunate truth of life. that sometimes you can improve and yet not always get the recognition you deserve. But I hope that this video can change that. And if you want to help with that, make sure to hit the like button and hype the video if you're seeing it within the first week of its release. To end this video, I would like to rank all the Golden Knights games, just to truly look back at the series. And I'll include Misfits too, because why not? Number 5, the Misfits Burger Joint. It's not bad, but it's really short and it's just a worse version of Golden Knights 1. But to be fair, it is a minigame in another game, so it being the worst only makes sense. Number 4, One Golden Knight at Freddy's. Well, it has ideas I like the free roam aspect. You can literally beat this game in less than 2 minutes, and it's not hard at all. The atmosphere is pretty good though, I'll give it that. Number 3, 5 Golden Knights at Freddy's 3. Now look, I really like this game. I think it has an interesting story, and I like how it combines the aspects of the previous games. And it was almost in second place, but I really had to ask myself, would I rather sit down and play Golden Knights 3 or the game in second place? And I just had to choose that game. I do really like this game though, and if it was just a bit longer, it might even be in the number 1 spot. Number 2, 5 Golden Knights at Freddy's 2. To be honest, this game should be number 1. It has the best gameplay loop in the series, it has a good story, and it has a lot of replay value with the minigames. However, I just had to put it in second place, and I'll say why when we get to number 1. I do recommend playing this game though, it is pretty good for the most part. Number 1, 5 Golden Knights at Freddy's. I'll be perfectly honest, it's only in the number 1 spot because of nostalgia. Although if I didn't have nostalgia for it, it would still be in second place, which is really good. I really like the gameplay loop. It's very fun, I think. Of course, Golden Knights 2 is better in every way, but I don't care. I just enjoy the simplicity of this game, even if its story is maybe a little bit out there. And again, nostalgia. I definitely recommend playing this game if you like old FNaF games, if you have nostalgia for it, or if you just want a fun way to kill half an hour. And with that, that was my complete retrospective review of the 5 Golden Knights at Freddy's series. I just want to say that if you have watched all the way to the end, thank you so much. That is actually insane. And if you've made it this far, maybe consider subscribing. Like I said, I'm trying to hit 9,500 subscribers before the end of the year, and I put a lot of time into this video. Please let me know if there are any other fan games or even horror games in general you'd like me to cover. I don't just make reviews though, I make theories as well, so if that interests you, make sure to check them out. Also, give me any constructive criticism. It's my first time making a video like this. I've made reviews before, but never to this scale, so any feedback would be appreciated. And please, go check out 5 Golden Knights at Freddy's 3. That game deserves a lot more recognition than it currently has. And I guess the final thing I have to say is, what the fuck was up with the pizzeria disappearing into thin air? Why was that never brought up again?